make or stop. Yes! Wow, the time that I feel me won't be for real. I'm talking to someone tells me why you're fucking free will. This is round to the world, but you round. This round to the world, but you are fucking round. This take your fucking stand.
All right. You know what time it is. It's time for the Steve Breit Rock Discovery Show. Mild Sauce live on a beautiful Saturday afternoon in Pilsen, Chicago, Illinois. Fucking jamming out to a little bit of classic Youth of Today. Would Take a Stand off of the Can't Close My Eyes EP. Getting the setting the tone for how we're gonna rock this episode this week. We're going fucking right to the throat with some brutal fucking hardcore, some fucking beautiful, fantastic Chicago hardcore, and a little bit of dose of Olympia, Washington hardcore to top it off. So yeah, like I said, we're going to be doing a live show review that took place a few weeks ago at ChiTown Futbol, my favorite place in the city to see shows. It was Cyberpink, CB Radio Gorgeous, Udisic, The Repos, and Physique out of Washington. It was mostly a Chicago lineup, and everybody that was at that show was all the better for it. It was a fantastic fucking lineup, fantastic set, and like I said, it's going to be a hard-charging episode of hardcore music today. But before we get too far, let's say hi and introduce the producer extraordinaire, Jake. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Back for episode 32.
Episode 32.
Man, almost got to 50. Might make a full year out of it.
I know. I gotta say, you know, at the
Coming back with the shades now, getting Hollywood on us. Damn, bro.
Now, as you can see, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. This gets the glasses are a little bit apropos of what we're drinking this afternoon.
There you go. Steve found himself, actually. He found himself.
Exactly. I found myself in the liquor store cooler door.
Show that one off real quick.
All right, we are rocking out with Finch Beer Company, 1800 West Walnut Street in beautiful Chicago, Illinois, and we are jamming out to their main man, American Brown Ale. And I gotta say, looking at this can, very much looked like a mirror reflection when I was at the liquor store door. So it's very interesting. I think there's definitely some sort of opportunity here. What do you think, Jake? Some sort of sponsorship, collab, or if nothing else, copyright infringement.
Yeah, if you look at that, if you guys can see that on the screen there, we got it zoomed in. If you can see it, Steve literally is the guy on the can. So,
yeah, there we go.
So over here, we'll flip over. You can see the cans there, and here's Steve.
And I'm wondering, you know, was the because it's a local. Was the illustrator who did this beautiful artwork, if I do say so myself, was he happened to be sitting across from me one afternoon on the L as we were all going to work together?
Yeah, you got somehow. I don't know, someone fished
yeah,
it. I don't know,
the
that's
resemblance
not a catfish,
is striking.
It's a big fan of the Steve Breit Rock Discovery Show.
But no, dipping into the beer, it is actually a very good beer. It is an American Brown Ale. The ABV is 6.0, so it's not a summer session lighthearted beer. You know, we're getting into the winter months, we're getting into the cool months, and this is a befitting beer for a chilly afternoon. You know, it's got a little bit of a heft to it, and the IBU is 40, so it's definitely not light. I've never had this one before. Going into it, I thought it was going to be like you know, like some of your more traditional British brown ales, nut brown ales, and I was pleasantly surprised. This has got a little bit more to chew on. I feel like it's dipping into the porter realm in terms of, like, you know, robustness.
Yeah, it also, in addition to having you on the cover, is also very on brand for us as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, this couldn't have been a more perfect pairing for the Steve Breit Rock Discovery Show.
And I'm enjoying it so far.
Mm-hmm.
Steve kickstarts my Saturdays and gets me drinking before I'm ready every week.
Hair of the dog. We both had entertaining evenings on Friday night.
Shout out Kelly Scrap. Happy birthday.
Shout out. And then on top of it, Jake was at the amazing birthday party last night, and I was able to catch friends of the show, White Mystery, perform at Lincoln Hall.
Right over your shoulder there.
Yep, new album, and they actually played a few tracks off the new album, and they were opening up for Rocky Erickson. So we'll be dipping into that review in an upcoming episode. Needless to say, it was a great night.
Roki?
You know, I always went by Roki. But then while we were at the show, you know, when the guitarist
say it the other way, yeah, okay.
When the guitarist introduces him as Rocky, you're like, oh, I guess I've been wrong all
I
this
am
time.
Wrong. Yeah, we can't really argue that. Yeah.
But when it's spelled R-O-K-Y, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You know?
No, I feel it. I actually liked Roki. I thought that sounded better.
Mm-hmm.
No offense to Rocky Erickson.
Yeah, you know, and yeah, because it's like, well, we can get into it in that upcoming episode, but you know, the dude's a bit of an enigma and a legend in American rock and roll, and I'd never seen him before, and not too many people are like hip to his whole thing. So it's like you're not really running into people in conversation, let's say, who are like, oh no, you're pronouncing it wrong, you know?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's like, I mean, there's a million names. Like, I'm terrible about those things. Whenever I host shows, like, my thing is always that I am terrible about saying people's names correctly. I've known Stephen Ponce, even now, I'm not going to say his name right, but I still can't say his fucking name. He's got a very simple name. Sorry, bro. I'll never be able to say it right. I thought one that was really funny recently was, I don't know, you watch football.
Mm-hmm.
The dude who was the starting quarterback for the Browns,
mm-hmm.
What was his name? Before Baker Mayfield. He was like, everybody was saying his name wrong, and then like,
yeah.
He like corrected him, and then like they were like, oh, we're still going to say it the way we did it. My bad, I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head right now, but yeah. Names are tough, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Off that tangent, let's jump into what do we got shirt-wise today?
Okay, so the shirt is going to be a little bit of a preview of the headliner of the review that we're going to be dipping into. So this is a Physique out of Olympia, Washington, and this was the shirt that I got at that show just a few short weeks ago. I believe I got a couple shirts. You know, actually I did. I bought 2 shirts at this show, and I would have bought 3, but the third band I wanted to get a shirt from, Udisic, they didn't have any extra larges. So,
Udisic. And, you know, come on, man.
and you know, they're a band that I've seen a bunch. I mean, I think we've talked about them before. We played them before. I'm a big fan of them, and I do have at least 1 or 2 of their shirts, but you know how I am and how I like to roll. But that happened to me last night at the Rocky Erickson show, or Rocky Erickson, see?
Hey, say it how you want, man. You're
at the Rocky Erickson show, you know, went up to buy a shirt, and I'm not sure if it was the back end of the tour and they're running out of merch or what, but they're like, yeah, we only have larges. It's like, come on, man, this is Chicago in the winter. What are you thinking?
We need big shirts.
Bunch of beer drinking fucking Midwestern dudes going to this show. You gotta come correct, but
that's real.
No, but yeah, why don't we just dive into it? So, a little bit more like punishing, just fantastic hardcore. These guys kicked ass, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. But let's dip in. This is going to be Physique with Price of Progress off their Punk Life is Shit EP.
Let's check it out.
All right, and we're back. Mild Sauce Live, Saturday afternoons, jamming out to Physique. And like I said, this was a great show. Another ChiTown Futbol, $10 special. Cyberpink, CB Radio Gorgeous, Udisic, The Repos. And we'll talk about a little bit Repos in a little bit, and then Physique. But really good stuff. Cyberpink, CB Radio Gorgeous, Udisic, and The Repos are all local. So nice little Chicago showcase. And the cool thing about it was, you know, Cyberpink very much, I think, you know, in line with some of the other, like, really cool hardcore bands that we've talked about over the course of the year, you know, stuff that's been playing out in the local shows. CB Radio Gorgeous had a little bit different vibe. You know, to me, they almost sounded a little bit more like West Coast, let's say the Minutemen, if I can get into a little bit of deep cut West Coast punk, and then Udisic, classic Chicago hardcore, and then the Repos. You know, they were a band that, pretty interesting story, you know, early 2000s Chicago hardcore. They came out, I mean, just like really kind of carrying that classic hardcore flag, really just bold, fucking in your face. And they broke up, I believe, in 08 or 09. And then they came back, so they were the Repos, and I'm not sure, you know, Chicago lore being what it is. I thought I heard a story that they had some sort of copyright issue with their name, so they just, like, switched around some words and reformed as the Ropes.
It's kind of funny that the Repos had to, like, switch their name. They got their name repoed.
Right. Yeah, so then they were the Ropes for a little bit, and then they switched back, and then they're the Repos again. So we're going to be checking out a few of their tracks, dipping around. We're going to listen to some old Repos, some new Repos, and I actually have some Ropes, so we'll be listening to some Ropes too.
All right. But coming up here, you got Cyberpink up next.
Yeah, so like I said, they were really cool. I felt that they were raw in the sense of like bands like Social Quarantine that we played and talked about before. You know, real kind of edgy, raw, real nice. A sound that, you know, over the last several years, like listening to bands around Chicago, it's like, oh, this is a nice, familiar, comfortable, fucking cool hardcore vibe. And this is off of their demo album. We're going to listen to a couple of tracks because it's hardcore, because it's a punk day. And most of the tracks are about a minute long, if that. We're going to be checking out a couple of tracks from everybody this afternoon to kind of give it a little bit more perspective in their sound. So we'll listen to a couple of their songs. We've got 20% Off and License Plate, both of them off of their demo EP. That was available at the set. And like I said, very cool stuff.
All right, let's check it out.
Let's do
it. Is the Cyberpink?
Yep.
Cyberpink?
Cyberpink.
Not the Cyberpink. That was
Cyberpink.
sucked.
Yeah, I got one of their shirts. Actually, earlier this week, about halfway through the day at work, it occurred to me, oh, shit, I got to do laundry if I'm going to wear this shirt for the show. And then I realized, oh, no, I went crazy and bought a whole bunch of shirts that night.
You're all good. All right, well, let's jump into it. We got Cyberpink coming up on Mild Sauce Radio.
It's kind of hot.
Yeah.
Mild Sauce Live Saturdays, jamming out to Cyber Pink, Chicago hardcore. Very cool stuff. Like I said, it's reminiscent of a few other bands that we've kind of showcased and talked about over the last year of episodes. Good stuff.
Yeah.
I really like, that's one of the fun things about like Chicago. It's like it's an established old school city where we've got a good music scene, we've got a good beer scene, we've got a good sports scene.
Yeah,
a lot of stuff to fall in love with around town. And I gotta say, like, whereas I felt hardcore music was always like an East Coast West Coast thing. Never really, in my opinion, had a real predominant foothold in the early hardcore scene. I think over the course of the years, we've really evolved here to have a really robust, differentiated kind of landscape of music to really enjoy.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, the city has always been known for birthing a lot of new musical styles. And, shit, you can literally go around the city and pick, like, walk into any venue almost and see something great. Like, that's the reason we do this show, is that the bands I go see are completely different than the bands you go see. And
Yeah.
like, that's the fact that you and me don't cross over that much as much as we go see concerts is a testament to how diverse the city is.
Yeah.
Have you been catching this band Grapetooth by chance? Is that
I have not. Tell me about that.
All right, so that's one you might want to check out. That's coming out of like the Logan Square garage rock scene, kind of. It's friends of a lot of the guys in the scene. Like Knox Fortune's real close to those. I think he lives like right above them. But they just came out with a great new album, especially like, especially in the wake of like the whole Orwell's bullshit that went on. I think it's really nice to have another really great band, good dudes, doing it for the right reasons, making great music, having fun with it. The new album, I've got a chance to listen through it once. We're trying to get a review up on Mild Sauce, but
okay.
I mean, I'm not the biggest rock person. I'm the willful ignorant one here on the show, but this shit is very hot. I had a good time listening to it. Definitely made me want to come out and check them out. Had some good energy to the music. I love Whitney and stuff like that, but it's a little too slow for me at times.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're great, man. They had a lot of fun listening to them. It's a very like in that Twin Peaks world,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, talking with them, man. Shout out Grapetooth. Congratulations on the release. I'll try to get some of that music over to Steve so we can get it up on the show.
Yeah, I'd love to check it out.
Tweaked
Shout out
on
Grapetooth
on this episode, I guess. But.
No, that's cool. And, I always find it interesting how, like, just like what we were talking about, how diverse things are. Like as I was going to Lincoln Hall last night, I had a pretty hectic day at work, so I came like straight from the office. And as I was on the L, I realized, oh shit, I didn't hit the ATM. I got no cash. So I was like, roll the dice. Maybe they'll do like card swipes at the door or something like that. So I get to Lincoln Hall and, cash only for admission. It's like, all right, where's the nearest ATM? Well, how about that CVS? So I run over there, out of order.
Always when you need one like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So then I like come back and I was like, all right, is there any like others in the neighborhood? And they're like, yeah, in front of Lincoln Station, there's another one over there. So I walk over there and like some fucking drunk like punched out the buttons. So so that one was all fucked up too. So I was like, motherfucker. And then like, so I'm running around that whole area trying to find like a bank with an ATM that I can like swipe into because it's like 9:00 at night. And I run past like Kingston Mines, and just like what we're talking about, it's like there's a line out the door at Kingston for like a live show tonight. Then right across the street, like I hit the bank, I'm coming back, I'm on the other side of the street, and there's like a blues club, and
Blues
it's like
on Halstead,
yeah, Blues on Halstead, and there's like bands like rolling into that. Like the city was jumping last night with like really good fucking music.
The thing is, it always is, man. It's just wild that like I'm very impressed by like having made like a tiny bit of a name for myself writing about music in the city. Like when I look at people like Josh Terry and Brett Julius and some like my favorite writers in the city, they're writing about bands that like they're putting me onto new stuff all the time, and like I find that like the breadth of what you can cover, like go to in the city is so cool. And that's why we're here doing all the stuff we do here on Mild Sauce Radio.
Yeah. And I find it's funny. Like, I don't know about you, but like getting, you get out of college, you get out of high school, and you get older, and like people like kind of fall into their habits, and you got friends that get married and settle down, and you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And then like you're hanging out with like friends that like you used to go to like all the shows with, right? And they're just like, I haven't listened to like anything new in like a long time. You know what I mean? Like, it's to me, and I think it's like maybe just being in the weeds, you know what I mean? Like I am, it's like, you have no excuse. You have no excuse, man.
Yeah, man.
I mean, with you know, internet and Spotify, and like you don't have to pay for shit. You know what I mean? Like be a little bit curious, be a little bit adventurous. And
be like that Portlandia episode where you like strap on the helmet and like fly a drone through a festival. 'Cause you wanna go. But no, you're totally right. So this next band you have coming up, CB Radio Gorgeous. Tell me a little about them. Are the local band from out of town? What's going on
local
here?
band, nice little change.
Another
Yeah.
part of another like link in the chain of Chicago rock.
Certainly, yeah. Another link in the chain, and you know, as you'll be able to tell right off the bat, it's a little bit different vibe. I feel it's got a little bit more West Coast jangle to it. You know, it's got a little bit of a more laid back flair, and pretty neat. Like I said, it harkened back to me to like old Minutemen, or you know, punk before it got punk before it got like really aggressive and evolved into hardcore and kind of split from there. So this is definitely in the punk realm, let's say.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've got a couple tracks from them. We're gonna dip into a couple off of the Plays CB Radio Gorgeous release. It was a cassette, and we're gonna listen to Summer Skies and Babylon.
All right, this is the Steve Breit Rock Discovery Show. We're checking out CB Radio Gorgeous. Here it goes.
All right, we're back. Mild Sauce Live. Mild Sauce Live on a beautiful fucking Saturday afternoon. Chilling out, listening to CB Radio Gorgeous. And, you know, as we were talking about a little bit before that, musically, it's got a little bit of that West Coast jangle to it that I really enjoy. And like I said, it kind of harkens me back to the pre-hardcore LA era. Nice stuff. And then vocally, I think we get into a little bit of, you know, stylistics that we've heard a little bit on the previous episodes of the show. If we want to think back to local bands, it reminds me of like Dianetics, or if we want to think national, I believe they're from Texas, Judy and the Jerks.
Yes, Judy and the Jerks is one of my favorites that we played, actually.
So that, you know, vocally, that's one of those bands that I really dig. So nice stuff, nice little change of pace in the lineup, and then, you know, like I said, it was a full range concert. So we go from a nice little groove from CB Radio Gorgeous into some brutal hardcore a la Udisic from Chicago. So Udisic is not only a fantastic band, but the lead singer Sarah plays a pivotal role in booking some of the best hardcore shows that come around the city. So, you know, she is a multi-talented woman, and
you brought her up before.
Yeah. I mean, she's really a cool person. She's real supportive of the scene, out and about at a lot of the sets. There's an upcoming hardcore show at the Burlington on the 22nd, featuring Forward, and I think she's playing a role in organizing that. So
very cool. Way to shine a light on the people behind the scenes.
Yeah. I mean, you know, these are the people that, you know, because, you know, if these people aren't picking up the baton and carrying it, you know, who else is going to do it? So it's really cool, and I really appreciate, you know, because there is no Live Nation or you know, any of these big promotion organizations that are like supporting and pushing hardcore punk or the more underground sounds.
Most definitely. Who else? Is there some like other people that like come to the top of mind when you think of that? I know you always reference.
Yeah, I mean, to me, my top two is Martine and Sarah. You know, they put on what I think is some of the best shows in the city for your dollar and for the quality of music and the range of sounds that you're gonna get. You know, over the course of the year, those two have put on, you know, fantastic shows that we've talked about in the last several episodes about, like, you know, the Alice Baggs show or the Futura show, or, you know, whether or not they're playing themselves with like Limp Wrist or Udisic or Los Crudos.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's so much that they bring to the scene in Chicago, and it's really nice to be able to have such passionate people kind of, you know, pushing the scene forward.
Yeah, 100%. Those people are not recognized enough, so it's always appreciated when the people that are making things happen behind the scenes and aren't on the stage get some recognition.
Yeah, so, and that leads us into Udisic. You know, we've
you guys got a sneak peek because I messed up earlier, so enjoy that.
Yeah, so we've it's been a little bit since they came out with a release, and the tracks that we're going to check out from them, there are a couple of tracks off of their now, this is something I don't, again, me butchering different pronunciations. This is going to be off of the Long in the Tooth, a benefit for Lysistrata.
I can't see it, so I don't.
Oh, okay.
You're on your own on this one.
Sorry. There we go.
I don't know what that is. Yeah, that's like Greek.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it's a nice little EP, and it's an EP of cover songs. So we're gonna listen to a couple of covers on this one, and it's interesting. The first track I thought was kind of fun because they're covering ZZ Top.
Yeah, I saw
so
that, actually.
Not necessarily a band that like punks are really scrambling to cover from their back catalog. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You know, you're going to get, like, weird shit, like, real off-kilter stuff, or you're going to get some pretty on-point stuff, but, you know, ZZ Top, yeah, you know, I don't know. I mean, you tell me. I can't really think of any ZZ Top covers just in general.
I was born in 1989, so ZZ Top was
a little after your time.
Not really something that was, like, buzzing about my brain.
They're not really my time either. I may look it with this weird beard, but
Yeah, I was gonna say like I'm not even gonna pretend like I have anything.
but yeah, I really don't know a lot about ZZ Top.
Well, on that, let's check out a ZZ Top song
fucking do
played
it.
by you, Disick.
Mild Sauce Live Saturday, jamming out to fucking Udisic with Castration, Poison Idea cover. Before that, we are listening to Precious and Grace, ZZ Top cover. You know, and that got back to what I was saying. Like, a lot of times when you're listening to a punk band or a hardcore band doing a cover song, it's like either a really weird thing, you know, if like, say, At the Drive-In covering Pink Floyd's Pick Up Thy Stethoscope and Walk, or, you know, you'll get like...
For some reason, the only cover punk cover I can think of right now is 99 Red Balloons.
Yeah.
That's a terrible one, but yeah.
But, you know, that was a classic punk cover from 7 Seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And R.I.P. 7 Seconds. They broke up a couple of years ago. And
oh, really?
I had an opportunity to see them a couple of times. And fantastic band. I mean, what was that? That was it was not quite California. Reno? I think Reno hardcore.
Okay. Take your word for it.
But yeah, very good stuff. And you know, there's a perfect example of a completely off kilter cover song, because I forget the woman who originally
it was like a disco song.
Recorded that song, but it was a German song, 99 Luft Balloons.
Yeah, it was like a German disco song. I'm pretty sure that they flipped. And honestly, like I only ever knew it because of the punk cover.
And you know, call me biased, but I think the punk cover's better.
Yeah, I think so.
But those were the last two punk covers we heard. Really good stuff. You know, the second track, Poison Idea cover, that was, like I said, a lot more in line with what you're traditionally used to hearing in terms of punk bands. But, you know, it's always interesting when you get, you know, stuff like that. And it wasn't the best album, But a few years ago, Jerry Only, before he got back together with Glenn, with reforming the original Misfits, he did an album called The Misfits, I believe 1950, and it was all just old cover songs, and you really, I mean, like I forget all the tracks, but they were like old 50s like doo-wop and Motown songs that they were covering. And it made you really think. It's like, oh yeah, if you listen to like the Ramones or a lot of that East Coast punk back in this mid 70s, late 70s, a lot of those dudes were just aping early rock and roll. And it's, if you had the record player, if you turned it from like 33 to 45.
Yeah,
you know
I
what
mean, that's actually a really interesting way to put that. Yeah, it literally was just like speeding up the
You know, a
records.
lot of that classic, Misfits and Ramones, and a lot of the more groove-oriented punk bands. It's really classic rock and roll, just kind of like sped up 100%.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting way to look at it, actually. It's such a simple way to think about it, but it makes so much sense. My bad, you like me with that. Well, that's what's up. You were talking about the repos earlier. How they were the ropes.
Yeah, they started as
They
the
bounce
Repos.
around. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was really they were a band that I honestly, a buddy of mine, a real good friend of mine, Don, he got me into them several years ago, and he had gotten me into them actually after they broke up. So I never thought that I'd have an opportunity to check them out. I thought they were like, a band of
You just missed that
Chicago
one.
history and lore, you know what I mean? And it was really cool to see that, no, and as a matter of fact, no, they put out a record like a year or so ago, and, being Chicago, they will come out and play every once in a while. And I don't know, you tell me, like, in the hip-hop community, because we've got bands like the Repos, we've got bands like the Effigies, Peg Boy, Naked Ray Gun, who are like local bands. And every once in a while, the Beer Nuts, another example, they'll just kind of like bubble up and do a show. They won't necessarily tour, but they'll do like a special night where they'll kind of come back together and rock that shit.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have that all over town. Like the first one that would come to mind like that from like the modern era of rap in Chicago would be like the Cool Kids. Like whenever the Cool Kids, they had their run. Never were like household names across the country, but in Chicago they're like, stars.
Yeah, I mean, me and my naivete and the deep cut Chicago hip hop community, even I've got some Cool Kids. So.
Yeah, like Cool Kids were like iconic when they came out, and still, Sir Michael Rocks, and they're fucking great. But yeah, whenever they do a show, especially the last couple of years, they just did like their first project together in a while. That kind of stuff, they get a lot of people out. Treated Crew used to be like that for a while. No offense to those guys at all. My bad, I shouldn't even said that. It's nothing to do with that. It's just like their time has kind of come. I feel like a few years from now, you're gonna get some nostalgia with them, and they'll start doing that. Yeah, I don't know. I think in the hip hop world in Chicago, you get more people that there's more of a. We always talk about this, like rock has so many more delineations, where like hip hop is really like you made it or you didn't, and then there's maybe like a pocket underneath you. You almost made it, you know what I mean, and like you can like live off that, or you're like a really good local star. You have a really good hometown crowd, like there's a lot of like delineations in that, but I don't think there's as much like there's more ways to make it as a rock star. I think rap's getting there. Like I just had Rich Jones on the show last week on my show, and he's like someone I'm very impressed by because he has never given up. He's worked his ass off, and he's literally become like the Chicago Cubs of like rap music in Chicago. He was voted the number 2 rapper to Chance the Rapper the year Chance won all the Grammys. And it's like our friend. It's like everybody's friend. It's everybody's guy. Awesome. Yeah, and like he can go anywhere in Chicago, play a show, rock it out, have a bunch of people there. So I think you're seeing that more. Rich is a guy I could see that with. Twista, but it's a little different. It's a little different though when it's like Twista and shit.
I was wondering, like, does Twista draw like, cause like,
he does a lot of stuff where
like every once in a while he'll, I'll hear his name on like an upcoming set.
He definitely jumped into like, I think as I'm looking up, I'm seeing his name on a bill in the house, but he's a guy who when like a few years ago when Chicago, like I specifically remember he did one of my favorite songs Hurt Everybody Ever Did was Stay Awake with Twista. And he did like a few other ones. Like I think he jumped on a Chance track. It was Cocoa Butter Kisses. Like, and it was always like, it always kind of felt like he didn't. And I saw him rap at a few songs at Taylor Bennett shows over the years, and it always seemed like he didn't really, like he was just like there to be twisted. He would just get up and like his verses. He never like knew his verses when he did them. Like everybody, you know. So I think he's cool in the fact that like he doesn't seem like he's taking too much when he does those things. He does it for like the love of like helping somebody out.
That's awesome.
But he's definitely one. GLC is an amazing human. All right, I can go for days. My bad.
No, I find it interesting. You know, like I said, it's like it peeks back the curtain into stuff that I'm not super familiar with.
Yeah. Once I start thinking about it, like they start rolling out more and more. I mean, like I had a chance to meet Do or Die, which is like some childhood heroes of mine, and like see them do a couple shows and stuff. That was cool, but they're not doing. I don't know. It's kind of like a little further between, I think.
Yeah.
There's something about seeing like an older dude play a guitar compared to like a dude like rock a mic that I think is a little more entertaining. But yeah, I don't know. How does this come back to the Repos? I took us off on I walked us down a path.
Like I said, you know, and like we talked about earlier, you know, they were a band that I was not hip to when they were first, you know, around, but I got into them later, and I got into them after the whole Repos Ropes thing kind of went back and forth. So, you know, like I said, when I got into them, they were the Ropes. And it was like, oh, the Repos are what we did before. But then, like I said, you know, they came out with a record a year or two ago called Poser. It's really fucking good. And, you know, brutal. Like I said, I wanted to kind of start the episode off with like a gut punch. So we started off with Youth of Today, which was, if you'll read into the hardcore histories, you know, they are kind of believed to be the final original wave of hardcore bands. If you think of American hardcore music being like 1981 to 1986, their first record came out like right in 1986, and a lot of people are like, yeah, they were the last guys that got in the door before, you know, it turns into like second wave hardcore, or you know what I mean, like evolves into something else. Right. And to me, the Repos and the Ropes, they always represented like that late first wave era of hardcore.
Probably like when it was kind of coalescing into like what it was, right? Like,
you know, what I feel like is like hardcore in the early days, it was like it had just kind of like evolved from punk. So if you think about hardcore, its roots are, whether you're, you know, a devotee of the East Coast, it's the Bad Brains. And the Bad Brains say that like they went to a Ramones concert, and if you listen to the Ramones as opposed to seeing the Ramones play even faster live than what they play on record. So, you know, the Bad Brains, the legend goes that the Bad Brains went and saw the Ramones one day and were like shocked at like how fast they actually played, but they were like a little confounded by the fact that it's like they play a lot faster live than what is on the record. So what you hear is not really what you get in the performance. Why don't they put the performance into the recording? And that's their motivation, and so that's how they kind of evolve.
That's really interesting, actually. Wow.
You know, but if you're a West Coast devotee, then you would say it was a band called Middle Class, who was the originators of hardcore. You know, me being a Midwesterner, you know, everything bleeds from the coast and comes into the middle. So I got no dog in that fight.
Yeah, just bringing it all together here on the Steve Breit Rock Discovery Show.
But, you know, that's kind of like the birth and the evolution of it. And then, you know, so you get that early experimental phase, and then over the next 5 years or whatever, you know, it really kind of falls into its tropes, and like, oh no, a hardcore band starts with a, you know, 4/4 beat, 1 2 3 4.
You
know
what
I mean? It kind of
formulaic.
It gets into the formulas, right? And then I've always felt that like the Repos really represented that era of early hardcore where things kind of metastasized into like, no, brutal hardcore does this, you know what I mean? And the couple tracks we're gonna play, and I wanted to give a little bit of a range, you know. So, like I said, I've been a fan of the Repos for many years, and we're gonna check out an early track from theirs, and then we're gonna check out a more current track. So the first song we're gonna hear is off their debut album, and it's gonna be called "Attack from All Sides." And then the next track we're going to hear is off their most recent release. It's the title track of their Poser LP, and it's Poser. So why don't we just dive into it? They were great. I took a lot of pictures at this show like I want to do, but I was in a weird position. I was almost like on the side of the stage. It was at ChiTown, so there's no stage, you're just kind of all around the band. And I was like next to the sound guy on the side. So like all my photos from this show are literally like 3/4, like either the side or like the back side of people's heads, and they weren't really compelling. So that's the only reason why we're not having a lot of photo documentation of the evening set.
You're all good, man. Let's check it out then.
Let's do
Repos. We got Attack from All Sides. We got Poser. We're gonna run through both these. Stay with us. This is Mild Sauce Radio, Steve Breit Rock Discovery Show.
Yeah, it's kind of hot.
It is kind of hot.
Mild Sauce live on a Saturday, fucking jamming out to the repos, checking out some old repos, checking out some more current repos. And astute listeners, as you will notice, that first track, Attack from All Sides, off of their first album, that, like I said, that's kind of why I played that Youth of Today track. Early repos really kind of reminds me. And if I'm not mistaken, they did a whole cover album of Youth of Today. Actually, I probably should have played some of that to kind of give a little bit more clear context. But either way, all good, just fucking awesome rock and roll. And then the second track we heard was Poser, the self-titled track off their most recent album. And, I think aside from a little bit of production values, you get that same energy, after they got back together. Time has not diluted or softened this band whatsoever. And that's what I love about them. I mean, very, very fucking cool stuff. Yeah, and, that brings us to the headliner of the show. So, again, special thanks, if I'm not mistaken. This was a Martine jam, and he brought Physique from, if I'm not mistaken, Olympia, Washington, out to Chicago, and they treated us with a nice little evening's performance. And we're going to jam into a couple of tracks from them. We're going to just listen to Endless and the self-titled track off of the LP that we're going to listen to, Punk Life is Shit. So really good stuff and a really good representation. Like I said, the last band is got its roots in early 2000s Chicago hardcore, and you kind of see how that sounds. And this band is pretty new. I think they've got a couple EPs. They've been around for a few years, but not very long. And really kind of raw fucking hardcore out of the West Coast. And I'm always a fan of that. So let's just dive into it. We got Physique.
All right, let's check it out.
We're back, Mild Sauce Live, jamming out to Physique, Punk Life is Shit. Before that, we heard Endless off of the Punk Life is Shit EP. And astute viewers would notice a little peek behind the curtain. You know how it you know, I think you hear stories back in the day of like radio DJs, and whenever they had to like go to the bathroom, they'd play like some Led Zeppelin song, you know, like Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah,
'cause it's
like
like
real
really
long.
long, and they can take their time, you know. With this, it's like punk rock, minute-long songs, and we're drinking on a Saturday afternoon. I got to jump up, so I got to be very judicious with my bathroom breaks. And
Steve has got some fleet feet when he's running around, getting moving back and forth. Wouldn't believe it.
Yeah, so
that was dope though, man. Physique is definitely somebody I would check out.
Yeah, it was a really cool fucking set, and they were a band that I was not too familiar with. This was one of those sets that, you know, the local openers were the draw for me. I was going for them, and Physique.
Where are these guys from?
They're Olympia, Washington.
Oh, you said that. Yes.
Yeah, so like I said, I was not too familiar with them, so it was very cool fucking checking these guys out, and that's always a nice thing when you've got like such a good base of music in Chicago that's going to draw the locals out. You know, you're going to get a little bit more of a broad view of the music scene because, you know, like I said, I don't know if I probably, you know, had the openers not been on the lineup, I probably would have checked it out of curiosity, but, you know, just added bonus.
Yeah, most definitely. The show was this whole episode was pretty well. It was like pretty consistent throughout.
Yeah.
My bad. I'm like
No.
I was just looking at all the stuff we played, but yeah, it's been a good one. I think you're taking us full circle to the end with the coming back from the repos.
Yeah. So
with the Words with Friends version of their name.
So, yeah, I think we're getting about to the end of our hour. And as always, it's been a lot of fun. I definitely look forward every week to relaxing and chilling out on a Saturday afternoon and listening to great music and drinking some good beers.
It's an excellent time.
And, as usual, we got some shout-outs. So, of course, shout-outs to Jake, who without him, the show would not be possible.
Shout out to you, Steve.
Oh, thank you, Jake. Shout out to the 3 Peaks Morning Show. They always fucking kick ass. I love those guys. Shout out to Mars.
Mars will be here soon.
Yeah, we got that fucking Saturday Live whole set coming your way. I think we might have some backcourt in the future now that
tomorrow night we won't have a backcourt, but we will have the Souls of Liberty on.
Oh, fantastic! Love the Souls of Liberty.
Talking about their new album and a few other things. So you guys
Chanel's back in town.
Chanel is in town for the weekend.
Excellent.
So,
yeah, shout out Chanel, shout out Ryan, shout out Souls of Liberty. Love those guys. And so as we wind down this episode, again, always trying to give love to Chicago music, always trying to give context in what we talk about on our episodes. We talked about the repos and the ropes contradiction and dichotomy, and I wanted to go out, so we got Collision's End from the ropes debut release. And on that note, I think we're going to be, I don't know, with the Thanksgiving holiday, have a week off next week. Next episode that we're going to do, I think I'm going to dip into a little bit of that White Mystery Rocky Erickson show. So we're going to get a little bit of a different change of pace, go from pummeling hardcore into a more groove-laden rock vibe. So downshift tonally, but still very awesome.
Loving it, man. Yeah, week off, could be back, hit December hard.
Yep.
But
come full circle for the end of the year. Year in review, of course.
Yeah,
episodes on deck.
We're gonna have a lot of stuff coming towards the end of the year. But yeah, thank you guys for rocking with us today.
Yep. Cheers.
A great episode. Well, what are we rocking out on here?
All right, so we're gonna go out on the Ropes, Collision's End, off of the Ropes LP, and it's kind of hot, man. Cheers. Fucking rock out. And, have a great Saturday.
Let's do it.
What can I say? What can I say?